Welcome back to our Mastery Tips and Tricks show. I am so grateful to be here with you. We have special guest Julie Gibbons, and we're going to be talking today on how to truly create branding excellence and what creates branding excellence. So, thank you so much, Julie, for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much, Heather. This is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So let's give you a little bit more about Julie. So Julie Gibbons, who is a brand designer, strategist, and web designer for holistic businesses. She works mostly with women to make their businesses magnetic to the right people so everybody wins. Julie is endlessly curious and drawn to learning about people and the world around them. Nature is a constant source of inspiration. She loves how it operates on a simple principle: do your own thing so you attract the right audience and don't get caught up attracting what you don't need. Julie applies the same principles in all her own work. Her curiosity has led her through a lifelong and meaningful path. She has a PhD in fine art, worked in design for close to 30 years, and has traveled the world extensively. She's been a teacher, artist, coder, and jeweler, amongst many things. And each phase of her life has brought new insights and skills that Julie has infused into her business. Oh, yeah. And she's even climbed to base camp Everest. So
I have.
amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself that I didn't get.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yes. People always ask me, how did I get to do what I do now? And it's so convoluted. I've just done so many different things, and I think that's great. That like when you're a kid, people always ask you what you're going to do when you grow up, and this kind of linear, single focus thing. And yeah, that's good for some people, but it's not good for everybody. And I think the thing about having a convoluted life is you get to draw skills in from all over the place. So yeah, my teaching skills come in, and the fact that I worked in offices and did office management and really boring stuff like that, like all that stuff is great for business, the business side of things. The design, I've worked in design in all sorts of areas. Yes, I trained as a jeweler, um, but I've also lectured in the history of design. I love learning. Yeah, so it's all over the place, but it's all kind of weaving into where I am now for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how Steve Jobs says you can't connect the dots looking forward, only looking backward. And
Mm,
so now you can look back and see all the amazing things you've done along the way that's allowed you to do what you do now and today.
that's right. Like how I got into web design. I built my first website when it was in 2000, which is like ancient history really in terms of web design. But I did that for my PhD. And so, yeah, it's kind of skills that I just thought, oh, well, that's actually pretty interesting. You did do a bit of coding here and there and look at this magic thing that appears on the screen. So, yeah, it's all kind of feeding into where I am now.
I love that. And now you help brands really expand. So you've got some great tips and tricks with for us today. So let's dive in.
Okay, so my first tip is branding versus rebranding. So if you've been in business for a while and you've got this branding that you just go, oh, it's really boring. I really think I need to rebrand. Um, there are some really good questions you need to ask yourself before you get to rebranding, because rebranding means that you do the whole kit and caboodle. Like it takes a fair bit of money and time investment to change everything over. Because if you've been in business for a while, you'll have a lot of assets that you need to
Yeah.
redesign
It's
basically.
not just a
You know,
brand. Where is the brand? It's on
no,
everything. Yeah, the
it's like
logo,
it's like
the
your
messaging.
website and all your ebooks and all your graphics and so much stuff is social media. So ask yourself, am I just bored? This is the number one question you should just ask yourself, am I just bored with it? Because you can easily change up your brand in simple ways that don't cost you very much at all, a bit of time. And there's still a lot of continuity between what you have and, I mean, it's the same brand. So just changing the focus of your color. Like if you have a color palette of, 5 colors, and you emphasize, the red in it. then if you just change it to emphasize an orange or emphasize a green within that same palette, whatever, whatever your palette is, you just change the color emphasis. Like that's really easy to do, and you actually haven't essentially changed your brand, but you will have a whole new lease of life on it. Another way is just to get in there and, or actually get somebody else to create some graphics for you, because one of the things is if you DIY any graphics, you kind of get stuck into doing them the same way all the time.
Mhm.
So if you get somebody else to create graphics for you, you can easily, they've always got a different perspective on they're always going to interpret things differently to you. So even just doing that, you might go, oh, some of them it might be a bit yuck, and you go, no, I don't want that. But by the same token, you'll be surprised. You'll be really probably quite, amazed at some of the things. You go, wow, that's really great. And it's great that you can actually have something new, to something really that feels really fresh. So that's another really simple way to change up your branding.
I just want to
There
let you
are
know
some,
we've done the color thing, and it
mm,
makes such a difference. Before we
mm,
were balanced between all the colors. And then
yeah,
as we started coming out with different podcast seasons and different events and sub brands, which you're going to talk about in a bit, we started switching what color was dominant. And if you go back through my Instagram page, you'll be able to tell when we did green, when we
mm,
did purple, when
yeah,
pink was
yep,
the dominant, when it was more
yeah.
even. And you might even be able to tell what graphics I made. I've had multiple different people who've worked with us who's also made them. And that really is a very smart idea, because we kind of get locked and focused and stuck doing the same thing. And fresh
Yes,
eyes and fresh creation really makes a big difference. And I have someone creating some new incredible inspirational quote graphics for me right now in the brand colors. And I'm super excited to see what they're going to turn out like, because I was like,
indeed.
do your thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so the thing about rebranding is there are some really good reasons why you might rebrand. Boredom is not one of them. So one of the reasons you might rebrand is because your audience has changed. You have, or you have changed fundamentally what you have to offer. So
Mm.
those sorts of things are the good reasons for you to change, because that is going to, I mean, branding's all about projecting something about who you are and how you work. So if that has changed, then definitely rebrand. And if your audience has changed, like if you think about it in terms of language, because branding is a language, any kind of visual, it's a communication tool. So if you think about it, if you talk to a 3-year-old differently than you'll talk to your elderly grandmother. So in the same way, we're always talking to different audiences. So if your audience has changed fundamentally, then definitely change your brand as well, because you'll be speaking to them in a different language, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we want to speak the
Mm.
language of our ideal client so that our messages resonate with them. And ideally, they scroll across your content and went, That's exactly what I was saying last night," which has them stop scrolling, because your competition is that cute cat, that funny reel. Like, there's so much to distract people. And so that messaging is really important to do that rebranding if you are changing your audience, so that you can speak to and attract those ideal clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So the next thing I want to talk about is font pairing. So the way people always ask me about fonts, how do you choose fonts? And essentially, it comes down to the shapes of the letters. Okay, again, this is visual communication, and the shapes of the letters are the thing that gives your font personality. It's about all the visual elements, the things that they're communicating an idea, and it's about your audience, what they're striving for, but it's also about what it reminds them of. What does that remind them of? So if you have a handwritten font, it feels personable, it feels human and friendly. So that's why you would choose a handwritten font. There and the same way, if you have a serif font, which is those letters, it's more traditional typeset kind of thing with a little, the caps on the letters and stuff. that is always feels traditional and conservative because we grew up with newspapers that had that kind of font on them. So that's it. It conveys a sense of traditional and conservative, and trustworthiness, but also probably a little bit more masculine as well, generally speaking, because that's that's kind of what we grew up with. So that's why it kind of conveys that sense. So when it comes to font pairing, there's a couple of kind of loose rules. The first one is like a fundamental rule. Don't have them too similar. If they're too similar, if you have two sans serif fonts, which is the more modern feeling ones with no caps on the letters, if you have them too similar, your audience will look at them and go, because they're not trained as designers, they'll look at them and they go, oh, they look a bit weird. They look a bit similar, but they're not. There's something quite a little bit different about those two fonts. But that's their first thought process. They're struggling with that before they get to your message. So if you make them too similar, you're already putting a barrier in the front of your audience before the message actually hits. So the idea is to have, when you have font pairing, make those two fonts really different. So it's easy. Your brain's not struggling to go, what's different here first? Your brain is just going, oh, there's the message there and there's the message there. That fancy font is obviously a heading. I'll read that and then I'll get onto the text. And it's easy to read. So that's the bit that that is the psychology behind choosing different fonts. The only other kind of a rule behind choosing two fonts is that actually there's a couple. There's like making sure that the weight of your heading font looks like it's more substantial than the text font, because you want to have that heading font to have a bit more impact than the text font, of course. And the other one is just to try and keep them from a similar kind of time frame, because if you're going a little bit retro with your branding, then if you choose something that kind of looks a bit 70s and then you choose something that looks a little bit 40s, they're going to not work together because they're from different time frames. But that's probably getting a little bit specialist.
Yeah, still things that at least blend together, right?
Yeah. So,
I love that. I love it. And I actually just we have a key graphic that we use, and I just updated it, and we have the like more masculine capital on this side, and it's telling you what it is. And then on the other side, we have the more italic feminine, which it just says create magic and miracles, because that's what we're trying to do. And they're drawn here first because it says, we've got our mastermind mixer. And then on this side, it's like, and this is what we're going to do there. We're going to create magic and miracles together. And I find that the pairing is very good. And I've also found that, like what you said, is very important. Like, not that you have two fonts that are two the same, because then it just looks messy. It looks like something's off, right? Like it looks like it's a mistake.
Yeah, totally. And you want that message to land as quickly as possible in your audience's head. So everything you can do to facilitate that is a good thing. If you put barriers up, in terms of making a graphic, don't ever put too much text within a graphic, because your brain struggles with that. Like, I don't want to, if I'm scrolling it through my feed at speed, as we all do, I don't want to have to be confronted with a big slab of text, because that's just too hard for my brain to comprehend. I will scroll on past. So you've lost your audience there. So just keep it simple, keep it impactful.
Simple, keep it simple and impactful. I love it. All right.
Definitely.
And then what are sub-brands?
Sub-brands. Okay, so if you're someone like FedEx, you will have sub-brands all over the place. There's lots of them. And how they differentiate their sub-brands is through color. We all know the FedEx logo, which is fantastic because it's got the little arrow in between the X and the D. Is it? No, E and the X, sorry.
Yeah.
but they differentiate their brand by color. So they've got exactly the same logo, they just change up the color. That's a really simple way to create a sub brand for all their different operations. So for, if you why would you want a sub brand? So for instance, I just did for a client recently she does magnetic money. So she's all about the money mindset and everything like that. So she's got a general audience for people like me who just want to learn more about mindset with regards to money. So now she's moving into the coaching space and teaching other people to do what she's doing. So she's kind of set up this school to teach other coaches. And so that's a good reason why she would want to differentiate that sub brand from her main business. So what we did there is we changed up the color palette a little bit. We use the same elements. She has a mandala that she uses on all her branding. She has, so she has like a palette of like a dusty green and a dusty kind of a apricot color, as well as some bronzy goldy color, copper. So we just shifted the emphasis a bit and just ramped up the more golden elements of that. So it would make it feel a bit more sophisticated, because that's your audience. Because your audience, from people like me who just want to learn about it from my own business, is very different to people who are wanting to be coaches. And so there's a higher level of learning there. So there's a need to make me feel a bit more sophisticated. So we emphasize the more gold elements, and it's a little bit deeper and richer overall, that sub brand. So the color is probably the easiest way
to differentiate the sub brand.
Differentiate. Yeah. There's plenty of other ways to do it. You can create a whole new brand for it if you wanted to, and there are other big corporations that do that. If they have one kind of main brand and they have a whole bunch of different things. It depends on what role you see that sub brand playing within your own main brand. So if you think it should be separate, then you create a whole different brand for it. If you think it's part of what you do, then you create a sub brand for it.
I love that.
It's like something that's a bit more cohesive, that fits with what you already have.
Yes. I love that. And we have many sub brands. We have Own It Empire, which is our company, and then we have Breakthrough Mentorship, which is my one-on-one coaching, timeline therapy, and NLP. Then we've got our Success Principles self-study program. We're launching something new coming before the end of the year, so we're making a new sub brand for that. We've got podcasts, we've got different master classes, and each one kind of we create our own little mini sub brand for it, and it has its own graphics. And everyone is just slightly different. One might be more dominant in a color, like you said, maybe a little different in the fonts. But yes, that's a great opportunity for people to create those, sub brands and multiple streams of income and differentiate the difference between each and every one of them. I love it.
Yeah. So you can even, it depends. Yeah, it depends on how you want to structure your business. Even if there's some particular thing that you offer that you want to create as not really as a sub brand, but even as like it has its own kind of branding, like, for a particular freebie that you really are so proud of that you want to, create this whole thing around it. You can just, use a particular type of graphic, or you can choose elements like with this my freebie at the moment that I will be talking about in a second.
Tell us what is that and how you sub-branded that.
Okay, so yes, this is called the Ultimate Guide to Creating a Standout Brand, and so the elements I chose, which kind of represent something meaningful as well. So there's red flowers, because it's a standout thing, because it attracts. It's nature, it's flowers. I love flowers. Flowers is part of my branding.
Love it.
But it's a red flower, so it's a really standout thing, and it's attracting a hummingbird. And a hummingbird is like they're beautiful, and they're lovely little things. They're beautiful little creatures, and they're very focused on what they do. So they kind of all came together for me. So in terms of all of my branding for the ultimate guide to creating a standout brand, I use those two elements, and there's several there's several images of hummingbirds, and there's several images of those red flowers. So yeah, I just kind of play with those with all my branding for that. And it's not actually a sub brand as such, but it's got its own little life, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a semi sub brand. It's not necessarily a different company or
Right.
like
That's
under
right. It
a
is. But
shareholding company, but it's a different
yeah,
offer, which you've
yeah, it is.
created a
And
slight different brand, like the same brand,
yeah,
but within, so it differentiates your main offer.
yeah. So it fits with my main brand, obviously, because it's flowers, and it's the thing with my because I love playing with color. So, but it's got that sense of paleness and just subtle color that I really love playing with. So it's pretty obvious that it's me, and but it also has its own particular focus elements. Yeah, and there's a rainbow. There's like a whole spectrum of whether from having a main brand through to having a quite separate sub brand. So as you can see, there's a complete spectrum there.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got shareholding companies that have multiple sub brands and you don't even know they're related. But then we've got our other sub brands, like for us, where we want them to recognize it that it's ours and that it's something new or different. Grab their
Mm,
attention. I
mm.
love it. So, guys, you want to grab that free ultimate guide to creating a standout brand, and you can grab that in the description and show notes there below. So, Julie, thank you so much for being on the show. Last but
You're
not
so welcome.
least, what's your favorite book that people should check out?
A book. Oh my gosh. My favorite book is the last one I read, I think.
And what was that?
I'm actually reading Six Figures in School Hours by an Australian writer called Kate Toon, and it's great. She's funny and she's smart, and she's built this amazing business. International. She works. She's a copywriter. She does SEO for websites. She does but she's built this amazing business, and she's really real, and I love her. She's
Awesome.
funny.
I love
Yeah, she's
it.
good.
And what was the name of that one more time?
Six Figures in School Hours.
Six Figures in School Hours?
Yeah, and it's aimed at parents who, I mean, my kids are teenagers
Oh, I
now, but
get it. During school hours, you earn six
yeah,
figures while your kids are at school if you send them to school. I know a lot of people unschool and their kids are home with them. But if you were to send them in school,
but it's still
yeah, I get
about,
the concept.
that whole juggle between being a good parent and having to trying to run a business, starting off at the kitchen table like many of us do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Or when they go to sleep, right? Not in the school hours, but when they're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Amazing. So, guys, you want to truly expand that brand. There's so much we don't know. We don't know. And this is Julie's expertise. So, you want to do it once and you want to do it right. So when you're setting yourself up, set yourself up for success. Ask for some expertise. My first logo and brand I had done by a graphic designer. I didn't do it myself, and it was the same one for years until I had somebody else and make my next logo, right? So definitely want to look for that expertise experience. So grab that free ultimate guide to creating a standout brand. The link is there below, and thank you. And then reach out to Julie so that she can help support you so that you can build a standout brand, so you can attract those ideal clients with ease. And thank you again, Julie, so much for being on the show.
You're so welcome. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely my pleasure. And remember, everyone, expect magic and miracles, stay happy, healthy, wealthy, and what is the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank
Thank you.
you.